I'd like to take a moment to share with you what I thought was a fun conversation with a set of new clients. It's my hope that what I shared with them is a help to you the way it was to them. She's 39. He's 39. They have one child together, a son who is 5. They have been married for 7 years. She has one daughter, 16, from a previous marriage. He has one son, 13, and he's never been married. They came to me, him specifically. He started the conversation and said, "Doc, I came to you because I'm hoping my wife will listen to you." I said, "Say that again." He said, "I'm hoping my wife will listen to you." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Over the years, our marriage has progressively become worse. And the reason it's worsened is because of the children, specifically her daughter." I said, "Explain." He said, "Well, in a nutshell, she allows her daughter to run completely over me. When we first got together, about 7 years ago, we dated actually about a year and a half and then got married. And from the beginning, I would say within the first 2 years, things were pretty cool. When she came to me 7 years ago and we got together 7 years ago, her daughter was only 9 years old. But by the time she got right around that pre-teenage age, she started having problems in school. And what incident occurred that boiled everything over is that she was at school and she got a note from one of her teachers that was sent home in her packet. And her mom wasn't home. And so she gave me the packet and I looked at it, looked at her grades and looked at the referral marks that talked about how she was rude to other students and rude to other teachers. So I asked her about it. And she said she started to pout. I said, "What else did you do?" She said, "Well, she not only started to pout, but as I was telling her, we're not going to behave that way in this house. We're going to be respectful to teachers. We're going to be respectful to other students." She yelled and screamed to her, "I'm not her daddy and I can't tell her what to do." I said, "Ma'am, is this true?" The lady on the call, his wife, sat there with her arms folded. I said, "Okay." I said, "Sir, continue." So he continued and said, and that just, Doc, turned from one, into a small snowball that built into a large snowball that created more and more issues. To fast forward to now she's a teenager, I simply can't tell her to do anything. I can't tell her to do chores around the house. My son has chores. Our son together has chores. She's the only one that gets to go and come and do chores as she pleases. I can't correct her. She is quick to say to me that I'm not only not her dad, but she reminds me that she's told me that before. I said, "Ma'am, is this true? Are you going to participate in the session?" She looked up and said, "Yes, sir, it is." She kept her arms folded and with a very stoic and straight face. I said, "Okay." I said, "Sir, what else? What other problems you got going on?" He said, "Well, we're Christians and we're believers." And he said, "Doc, I've been looking and thinking about this in hindsight. And I feel like a lot of this is my fault because I did not talk to her about the importance of us having some kind of order in our marriage." I figured I knew what he was talking about. I said, "But sir, please explain." He said, "Well, order in the sense of we should put ourselves above our children." And he said, "I have no problem with doing that. You can ask her. My son is very respectful to her. He does everything she asks him to do. Our son together does everything that she asks him to do. But she has tried a time or two to even allow our son together, who is only 5, to sometimes get his way when I told him things he can't do." I said, "Give me an example." She said, "Recently, he wanted to go to some event. And he asked me first, and I said to him it wasn't a good idea. We had something planned. It was a Saturday or a weekend or something. And they had something planned, and he told him it wasn't a good idea. So the son went to his mama and said what he said. And the mama said, "We're going to go anyway. Don't worry about it. I'm going to still make sure you go." I said, "Ma'am, is that true?" She said, "Yes, sir, it is." I said, "You don't see anything wrong with that?" She said, "I mean, they're just kids. I don't see a big deal. I mean, we don't always get it right as parents." I said, "That wasn't the question. I didn't ask you if we always get it right as parents. I said, do you see anything wrong with this?" She said, "Not really, Doc. I'm just being honest with you. I don't see anything wrong with this." I said, "Sir, why didn't you discuss this with your wife before you guys got married?" He said, "Discuss what?" I said, "Your Christian principles, to see if there was some alignment." He said, "I just made an assumption, Doc, and I know you're not supposed to, but I assumed that she understood that parents come before children, even when stepchildren are involved. And I am learning now that I couldn't have been further than the truth." I said, "Ma'am, let me ask you a few questions. Number one, what kind of husband is he?" She said, "He's an excellent husband. He does everything. He takes care of the home. He takes care of the children, even tries to build a rapport with my daughter that I realize does talk to him this way. And I have tried to say some things to her, but I feel like now at her age, she's just hard to get through to." I said, "And whose fault do you think that is?" She didn't say anything. I said, "The fault is yours." I said, "It's not his job to establish a rapport with a stepchild when a stepchild enters into a marriage. It is the job of the parent, the natural parent of a child, to establish a rapport and to establish a context by which that child is going to engage with your partner. It is not your partner's job to walk in a house with a child that is not his and tell that child, you're going to do this. No. The proper way to do it is that the natural parent sets the tone so that the step parent comes in and doesn't have to do much work. I said, so you're at error at this. I said, let me ask you another question, though. I said, what happened to your marriage? Why aren't you guys together? She unfolded her arms, bowed her head, and you started to see tears come down her face. I said, what happened? She said, he decided he didn't want to be in the marriage anymore. I said, why? He said it was a variety of different reasons, but one of the main reasons was that he just felt like I wasn't a good listener. I said, really? I said, was he a believer? She said he was. I said, oh, okay. I said, guys, let me say this to you both. This is very easy. It's not going to take long. I said, the issue that you all are having is a spiritual principle. And the reason why I don't do a lot of content on spiritual principles is because doing a lot of content on spiritual principles in a culture and an environment in general where a lot of people do not have spiritual foundations is like me taking off my fancy necklace and throwing it in the mud. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I refuse to talk about spiritual principles over and over and over again to people who either don't have a spiritual foundation or who don't desire one. I said, as a believer, that's important to me. Now, I think I'm doing something right because having clients in 47 countries and having clients that are everything from atheist to Buddhist, I think I'm doing something right as a believer that they would come to me and trust me with their lives to be able to make things work and get things together. I said, is that correct? He said, yes, sir. That's exactly why I came to you, Doc, because I feel like, you can get through to her because she's not listening to me. I said, sir, but that's the problem. I said, sir, you're an African-American male. Both of you are African-Americans. And if you look at the black church, I said, it has more of what in it, men or women? He said, women. I said, where are the men? He said, well, they're not there for a variety of reasons. I said, would you believe me if I said to you that there are a lot of men that don't even go to church? Not because they don't want to go to church, not because they don't want to go to the mosque or whatever religion they practice. There are a lot of men that don't practice religion. You know why? Because the women that they're connected to listen to a voice of a priest or a pastor above their own husband. And that's out of order. I said, sir, it is out of order for your wife to honor my voice before she honors yours. And yes, I'm a professional. Yes, I think I'm quite good at what I do. But at the end of the day, while I'm great at what I do and I think I give pretty decent, good advice and instructions, at the end of the day, if your wife honors my voice more than she honors yours, you got a greater problem. He didn't say anything. He said, wow, I didn't look at it this way. I said, that's exactly why a lot of men don't go to church. Not because they don't want God, Buddha, whatever you serve. They don't go because they feel like a lot of times their voice is ignored over their wife. And here's the problem. The issue that you all have about husbands and wives coming before children is a spiritual principle. The reality is husbands and wives belong above their children. It doesn't mean your children aren't important. It doesn't mean your children don't have a voice. But I did a video on this before. Just imagine a car. The car is your marriage. Who ought to be sitting in the front seat? He said, me and my wife. I said, who ought to be sitting in the back? He said, all the kids. I said, do you want to know the seating arrangement right now? I said, the seating arrangement right now is your wife is driving. Her 16-year-old daughter is sitting in the front seat. You and your 13-year-old son are in the back seat. And your 5-year-old is straddling over the seat in the middle. There ain't no order to that. And so when you make this video and you tell people that your spouse should be put first over your kids, people don't get it because they don't have a spiritual foundation. And they think that when you say that, that means that your children don't have a voice. Your children are in the car. They're a part of the marriage and they're a very important part of it. But they should never be above your spouse. I said, sir, this is a spiritual principle that explains the climate of the world. And the reality is if you came to me to try to get through to your wife, you got greater problems. Because any wife that listens to a counselor or a therapist or a coach or pastor or priest more than they listen to their husband, they are out of control. They are not only out of control, they are out of order. And I said, they could actually, the pastor, the priest, the counselor, the therapist, I've had clients come to me from other therapists and counselors and coaches who have told me some of the craziest, most outlandish advice that they've received, up to and including, I've actually had a client say to me that their previous therapist said to them, Don't even listen to your husband. You listen to me. Out of order. Because even if that husband is wrong, that is not spiritual order. And the fact that you guys don't have spiritual order in your marriage is a big explanation to why your marriage is all over the place. I said, sir, you got two major issues. Number one, you should have never married her, because marriage don't change people. And I know you meant well, but you should have never married her, especially if you didn't have this conversation. It is clear she has a problem listening to you. It's clear that she has a problem with order and divine order in a marriage, and she's supposed to be a believer. And that leads me to number two. I said, because we can say whatever we want to about the differences in religion, the reality is God did not put this marriage together, so we need to keep him out of it. He ain't have nothing to do with this. God is a God of order. And one of the things that I've discovered in working with so many different religions around the world, regardless of your religious preference, there are two things we share in common. Number one, we share pain in common. Everybody bleeds the same. Everybody feels pain the same. But the second thing that we share in common is that most religions have order. They got order. The laity aren't telling the priests what to do. The priests aren't telling God what to do. Mary, Hail Mary, Buddha, what to do. Most religions have order. I said, and the fact is, you should have never married her. But not only that, God ain't put this marriage together because there ain't no order. Because if he did, then the husband and wife would be up here and the children would be down here. They wouldn't be outside on the street. They would still be involved in the marriage. But their voice should never be greater than your partner. He said, well, then, Doc, what do you recommend that I do? I said, well, I got an easy recommendation. If she doesn't understand the principles of order, and if her daughter's voice matters more than yours, you should leave her. You should absolutely leave. Why are you still there? She started to cry more. He started to cry a little bit. He said, Doc, I'm still here because, it's just my faith, and my faith doesn't believe in divorce. I said, what did I just tell you? Did God put this marriage together? Is God a God of order? He said, yes, sir. I said, where's the order in your marriage? He didn't say anything. He started to wipe his face. I said, listen, I'm not trying to break you guys up, but you asked me an honest question. I'm giving you an honest answer. That if your marriage cannot have order, then you are out of order. Your marriage will be out of order, and you will live with this chaos until one of you die or one of you get tired. He was very thankful. She, by the end of the call, had apologized to him several times about not seeing it that way, made it clear to him that she would make a commitment to resolve perhaps some childhood challenges that she's had growing up as a single parent with a mom who had to do everything and really having to adjust to now the second man in her life, being able to let go of the reins and learn how to trust the men that she's with, to be able to have a very strong voice in her life. And she's doing some individual work with me, and he's going to continue to do some work with me as well. At the end of the day, I said to them, your husband comes first, not your kids. Your wife comes first, not your kids. And it doesn't matter who it is. I hope this story made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb. Listen, I've been dying to make this announcement for a very long time now, and I'm pleased to say that Inspire Nation has officially launched. Yes, we finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube. Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.